The bench. The air in the gymnasium crackled, not with the usual pre-game buzz, but with a frenetic energy that vibrated through the bleachers and down to the polished floor. The scent of sweat, floor wax, and nervous anticipation hung heavy. Maya bounced on the balls of her feet, trying to shake off the tension coiling in her stomach. This was it. The championship game. Everything they'd worked for. Coach Thompson's voice boomed, cutting through the noise. "All right, ladies, gather round." The team huddled, their faces a mixture of excitement and steely focus. Maya squeezed in beside Sarah, catching her friend's encouraging smile. Coach Thompson began to announce the starting lineup, each name delivered with a sharp, decisive tone. Point guard, Olivia. Shooting guard, Chen. Forward, Martinez. Forward, Davis. Center, Peterson. Maya's breath hitched. He hadn't said her name. Not this time. She scanned his face, searching for a mistake, a correction, anything. But his expression was unreadable. He clapped his hands. "Let's go, ladies. Bring home the win." The starting five erupted in cheers, high-fiving and slapping each other on the back. Maya remained frozen, the roar of the crowd fading into a dull hum. Sarah, noticing Maya's stillness, grabbed her arm. "What the, Maya, you okay?" Before Maya could answer, Coach Thompson gestured her over. "Rodriguez, a word." He led her to the far end of the bench, away from the jubilant team. His voice was low, almost apologetic. "Maya, this was a tough decision. You're a valuable player, no doubt. But I need players out there with grit. Raw determination. I haven't seen that fire from you lately. Not enough, anyway." Grit? The word felt like a punch to the gut. Maya's mind raced, replaying every practice, every game, every sacrifice she'd made for the team. The early morning drills, the late-night film sessions, the countless hours spent honing her skills. She had always put the team first, passing to her teammates even when she had a clear shot, playing defense with relentless tenacity. Was that not grit? "But coach," she began, her voice barely a whisper. He held up a hand, stopping her. "It's not a reflection of your talent, Maya. Just, you need to show me you want it more. Prove it to me from the bench." He clapped her on the shoulder, the gesture feeling hollow. Then, he turned and rejoined the team, leaving Maya standing there, alone with her confusion and disbelief. She walked slowly to the bench, the polished wood suddenly cold beneath her. The opening whistle blew, a shrill sound that sliced through her thoughts. She watched as Olivia dribbled the ball up the court, her movements sharp and precise. Sarah, her face a mask of concentration, positioned herself on the wing. The game had begun. But Maya remained rooted to the bench, a silent observer. The vibrant energy of the gymnasium now felt oppressive, the cheers of the crowd a painful reminder of her exclusion. Her teammates fought hard, battling for every rebound, every loose ball. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling of disconnect, of being on the outside looking in. Grit. Was that all he saw? Had he not noticed the quiet determination, the unwavering commitment that fueled her every move? Hidden battles. The frigid air clawed at Maya's throat as she ran before sunrise. 5 a.m. Blinding headlights momentarily painted her resolute features against the black canvas of the morning. Each impact of her shoes against the asphalt was a silent testament to her resolve, a victory claimed before the world awoke. Natural talent hadn't been bestowed upon her, every skill displayed on the soccer pitch was hammered out in these solitary workouts, during the tranquil hours her teammates spent asleep. Later that day, the sterile hum of fluorescent lights filled the high school JROTC classroom. Knot tying was the order of the day. Fingers that danced around the soccer ball now fumbled with the course rope. Sergeant Miller's instruction, a low rumble of authority, filled the space. "Rodriguez, concentrate. Every knot carries a story. A link, a lifesaver." Don't let it fall apart. Maya gritted her teeth. She pictured the intricate maneuver she had been practicing, the one designed to finally demonstrate her value to Coach Thompson. Inhaling deeply, she slowed her movements, and a perfect square knot took shape between her hands. By late afternoon, Mama's familiar aromas permeated the house, though Mama herself wouldn't arrive for hours. Daniel, gangly and awkward, sprawled across the kitchen table, surrounded by an imposing wall of textbooks. "Maya, I'm stuck," he groaned, gesturing wildly at a math problem that resembled an indecipherable code. Maya stifled a sigh. Her own assignments loomed, a darkening cloud on the horizon. But the intense focus etched on Daniel's face, his lip caught between his teeth, softened her resolve. "All right, show me what you've attempted," she offered, pulling up a chair. She patiently dissected the problem, breaking it down into manageable components. Understanding bloomed on Daniel's face like sunlight. "Oh. I see it now." He attacked the remaining equations with newfound vigor. As Daniel worked, Maya's gaze drifted to the snapshot affixed to the refrigerator, Mama, her face lined with fatigue, yet her eyes radiating warmth. The burden of unacknowledged duties settled on Maya, a familiar, weighty cloak. She assisted with finances, translated official documents, and acted as a constant source of support for Daniel, a buffer against life's hard knocks. That evening, after a hurried meal of leftover rice and beans, Maya sought refuge in her room. She retrieved her soccer shoes, the supple leather molded to her feet from countless hours on the field. Tracing the well-worn seams with a fingertip, she felt a pang of longing in her chest. Coach Thompson's words from the prior day echoed in her thoughts, lacking in resilience. She studied her reflection in the mirror. Weary eyes, gaunt cheeks. But beneath the surface of exhaustion, a flicker of defiance ignited. Perhaps Coach failed to see her struggles. Maybe he didn't comprehend the quiet strength forged in the pressure cooker of responsibility. But she knew. And for the moment, that inner knowledge had to suffice. She would persevere. She would continue to prove her capabilities. Not for him, but for herself, and for her family's sake. Falling behind. The ref's whistle, a shrill cry, shattered the anticipatory hum of the crowd. Sarah planted her feet at midfield, inhaling the crisp air that hinted at winter's approach. The sun, veiled by a somber sky, offered scant warmth. Even the cheers sounded distant, muted by the gaping hole Maya's absence left in their lineup. Their opponents, the Northwood Nighthawks, lived up to their reputation, unleashing a relentless offensive assault right from the kickoff. Before Sarah could react to a blistering pass, the Nighthawk striker, a compact powerhouse, hammered the ball past Emily, their goalie. "Heads up, ladies." Coach Thompson's voice, strained with artificial optimism, cut through the din. "Shake it off. We've got plenty of time." But the early setback seemed to fracture their team's morale. Passes went awry, tackles were clumsy, and their usual seamless teamwork devolved into a chaotic scramble of individual efforts. Frustration simmered beneath Sarah's skin. She yelled encouragement, but her voice seemed frail against the Nighthawks' relentless onslaught. Each agonizing minute that ticked by was a stark reminder of Maya's missing presence. Her solid defense, her insightful passes, the quiet leadership she embodied, all gone. The Nighthawks intercepted a sloppy pass dangerously close to their net, and with a decisive strike, the score doubled. Jogging back, Sarah felt a knot tighten in her chest. She noticed Chloe, her right winger, her face a mask of panic. "This is a disaster," Chloe whispered, wiping her brow. "We can't even break past midfield." Sarah pulled up beside her, lowering her voice. "I know. It's like we're one player short." She glanced towards the bench where Maya sat, her expression inscrutable, her attention fixed on the game. "I don't get why Coach is doing this. We need her, Chloe. We need Maya." Chloe bit her lip, her gaze flickering nervously toward Coach Thompson, whose face was dark with disapproval. "I know, but, you know how stubborn he is. He thinks he knows best. Knows best? Sarah exploded, her voice rising despite herself. Knows best how to wreck our season. This isn't about toughness, Chloe, it's about strategy. It's about utilizing your strongest assets. Maya is our anchor on defense. She gestured emphatically, her brightly painted nails momentarily catching the weak light. He's punishing her for something that isn't even the truth. Chloe winced. Quiet. He'll hear you. But Sarah couldn't stem the rising tide of anger. Usually the calm, collected one, she felt a profound sense of injustice. It gnawed at her, a burning acid in her stomach. She glared at the coach, his back still turned. The whistle blew again, awarding the Nighthawks a corner kick. With a sinking premonition, Sarah steeled herself for what was coming. A friend's plea. Sarah found Coach Thompson pacing the sidelines, his face a thundercloud. The late afternoon sun cast long, distorted shadows across the empty bleachers, mirroring the unease churning in her stomach. She'd been sketching furiously in her notebook after practice, trying to channel her frustration into something tangible, but all she'd managed were angry scribbles. Now, she had to try a different approach. Coach Thompson, she called out, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts. He stopped, turning with a sharp, impatient movement. Chen. What is it? It's about Maya. Sarah gripped her notebook tighter, the spiral binding digging into her palm. I don't think it's fair that you benched her. She's the most dedicated player on this team. He snorted, a harsh, dismissive sound. Dedicated? She missed 2 practices this week, Chen. That doesn't scream dedication to me. But you know why. Her brother, excuses, he cut her off, waving a hand dismissively. Everyone's got problems, Chen. Doesn't mean they get to slack off. This team needs grit, and right now, Maya's showing a distinct lack of it. Sarah felt a surge of anger, hot and indignant. That's not true. Maya's the strongest person I know. She's juggling school, taking care of her family, and still manages to give everything she has to this team. You're punishing her for something she can't control. She stepped closer, her voice rising. She pushes herself harder than anyone. She stays late to work on her free throws. She's always the first one at practice and the last one to leave. How can you say she lacks grit? Thompson's jaw tightened. I've made my decision, Chen. It's not up for debate. He turned away, resuming his pacing. Focus on your own game. But it's not just about Maya's game, Sarah persisted, refusing to be dismissed. It's about the team. We need her. She's our point guard, our strategist. She keeps us together. Bench her, and you're hurting all of us. Sarah noticed his hands were clenched behind his back. He had to see reason. He stopped again, his eyes hardening. Look, Chen, I appreciate your loyalty. But this is my team, and I make the decisions. Maya needs to learn that there are consequences for her actions. A little time on the bench might be just what she needs to get her head back in the game. Sarah's shoulders slumped. His words were like a cold splash of water, extinguishing the fire of her anger. She saw now the impenetrable wall he'd erected around himself. Reasoning with him was useless. You're wrong about her, Coach, she said quietly, turning away. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of bruised purple and angry orange, a reflection of the battle she'd just lost. You're really wrong about her. The misfiled record. Mrs. Henderson crooned along with the ancient radio as she wrestled with the overburdened filing cabinet. Now, where'd that Johnson kid slip get to? She mumbled, thumbing past manila sleeves labeled with surnames, Klein, Lambert. Johnson remained hidden, lost within the alphabetical labyrinth of Northwood High's student records. Finally, she located it, nestled snugly between Jennings and Jones. Yanking it free sent a cascade of attendance reports teetering. A slender, buff folder slipped unnoticed onto the corner of her desk. Oblivious, Mrs. Henderson gathered the scattered reports, tidied the Johnson file, and hurried off to deliver the slip to Mr. Abernathy. Upon her return, another heap of tasks awaited: a memo from the principal about the impending pep rally, parental consent forms for the senior outing, and a sensitive JROTC evaluation needing urgent delivery to the guidance counselor. Her eyes briefly noted the name Maya Rodriguez as she skimmed the assessment, a recall of a taciturn girl. Grabbing a pile of forms slated for Coach Thompson, primarily football physicals, she carelessly set Maya's assessment atop the stack. Close enough, she figured. Next. Coach Thompson sank into his chair, the clamor of the gridiron still reverberating in his head. The setting sun, cutting through the blinds, cast a zebra pattern across his workspace. He exhaled heavily, raking fingers through his receding hairline. One exhausting practice after another, a never-ending stream of minor injuries demanding attention. He began sifting through the stack Mrs. Henderson had left. Names flickered by: Miller, Peterson, Davis. Then, an anomaly. A folder, thinner than the rest, and beige instead of vibrant green. He furrowed his brow. Rodriguez, Maya, JROTC Confidential. The inscription sparked curiosity, a dangerous flame. He knew it was meant for guidance, yet the confidential label and the unfamiliar surname intrigued him. Perhaps it was the lingering frustrations of the practice, or the nagging feeling that he'd overlooked some vital piece. He hesitated for a beat, then, with a furtive glance at the closed door, he broke the seal. Inside was a summary, charting Maya's progress within the JROTC program. As he perused the document, his eyes widened. The words practically screamed at him: exceptional leadership potential, highly commended, demonstrated valor under duress, unwavering dedication. He rocked back in his seat, the once comforting sunlight now feeling stifling. The report spoke of accolades beyond the reach of most high schoolers. This was not the Maya Rodriguez he thought he knew. The Maya Rodriguez he sidelined. The Maya Rodriguez he had casually written off as lacking mettle. Unveiling the truth. The manila folder felt like lead in Coach Thompson's grip, a stark contrast to the carefree feeling he'd experienced after dismissing Maya earlier that week. Driven by a persistent unease, he'd requested her JROTC record from Sergeant Major Davies. The Sergeant Major, a man of few words and intense observation, had simply nodded, surrendering the file without a word. Thompson sat heavily at his desk, the sinking sun painting elongated shadows of the basketball hoops across the polished gymnasium floor visible through his office window. The familiar cadence of bouncing balls and squeaking shoes had long since vanished, leaving an unsettling quiet. A hesitation. Then, he opened the folder. The first page summarized her achievements: Maya Rodriguez, Distinguished Cadet. National Honor Society. JROTC Leadership Award recipient, for 2 consecutive years. His eyebrows shot north. He flipped the page. A detailed breakdown of her physical fitness scores followed. Off the charts. Her endurance was described as remarkable, citing her ability to break the 6-minute mile even after a punishing obstacle course. He recalled his own struggles to achieve that pace back in his college days. A wave of self-reproach washed over him. He continued his examination, encountering commendations for her performance as platoon leader. One report recounted her composure during a simulated combat exercise where, after a navigational blunder, she had single-handedly rerouted her squad, securing a decisive victory. He could almost envision her, small in stature, yet radiating fierce determination, issuing commands with unshakable resolve. It clashed sharply with the reserved, almost mousy girl he'd observed on the soccer field. Then he arrived at a handwritten note from Sergeant Major Davies: Cadet Rodriguez is among the most dedicated and selfless individuals I've ever been privileged to mentor. Her loyalty to her fellow cadets and unwavering moral compass are truly exceptional. The note concluded with a pronouncement that struck him with the force of a physical blow: she works tirelessly evenings at a local diner to financially support her family. JROTC offers the discipline and structure she craves, in addition to a modest allowance she uses to fund her soccer gear and contribute to the household. The words blurred. Soccer gear. Family support. He recalled his cutting remarks, his questioning of her commitment, her fire. He'd accused her of lacking passion. The irony stung. He'd seen a quiet, unassuming girl and rushed to judgment, utterly oblivious to the strength and fortitude masked beneath her quiet demeanor. He shut the file, its weight felt oppressive now. The hush of the gym bore down on him, amplifying the rasp of his own breathing. He had to rectify this. Somehow, he had to regain Maya's trust and, more importantly, her regard. He snatched his phone, his fingers clumsy as he navigated to her contact. He recognized the road ahead would be arduous, but he had to make the attempt. He owed her that much, at least. A change of heart. The lonely squeak of sneakers grated in the cavernous gym, a sound usually heralding triumph but now only amplifying Coach Thompson's disquiet. Supposedly engrossed in game film, the monitor remained stubbornly blank, mirroring the storm brewing within him. Maya's face haunted him. The memory of her, head held high in his office, voice steady despite the brimming tears, was a persistent ache. Lacking grit, he had declared. Now, the words felt like lead weights sinking in his gut. Grit. He'd always associated it with aggressive plays, a relentless pursuit of the sphere, the kind of fiery passion that blazed on the hardwood. But what did he truly understand of it? He recalled her measured reply, the quiet dignity with which she'd presented her case. No argument, no appeal, just stark facts about balancing two jobs with caring for her younger siblings. The memory pricked him. He'd noticed her fatigue at times, a slight dip in speed, a fraction less of her explosive energy. He'd carelessly attributed it to laziness, a want of dedication. How wrong he'd been. He spun his chair, its leather protesting with a groan. He imagined her world beyond the gym's four walls, a reality he'd never truly considered. The burden of his assumptions weighed heavily. Blinded by his own rigid definition of achievement, a narrow perspective on what constituted a dedicated athlete, he had completely overlooked the broader picture. A searing wave of remorse washed over him, tight and suffocating. He'd unfairly criticized, benched without justification, all on a flawed understanding. He'd judged her without knowing her, and in that act, he'd not only wounded her, but profoundly failed her as a mentor. His role wasn't solely about victories, it revolved around fostering potential, recognizing the unique strengths and challenges each player carried. He'd fallen short, miserably. The overhead lights buzzed with a monotonous hum, a sardonic soundtrack to his self-condemnation. This needed rectifying. An apology was imperative. Yet, beyond that, he needed comprehension. He needed to perceive Maya not as a player failing to meet his ideals, but as the young woman she was, a young woman whose strength transcended mere basketball prowess, embodying a different form of resilience, a quiet yet profound tenacity forged in responsibility and unwavering commitment. A grit he had ignored, because he hadn't taken the time to see. He killed the monitor's power, the swift return to darkness offered a sliver of solace. He had considerable ground to cover. Halftime apology. The locker room reeked of sweat and liniment. Halftime. Maya sat on the bench, staring at the scuffed floor, the humiliation still stinging. She hadn't even bothered changing. The pep talk swirling around her was white noise, the squeak of sneakers on the floor, a distant hum. Coach Thompson clapped his hands, the sound sharp and sudden, slicing through the din. "All right, cadets, listen up." The room quieted. Maya kept her gaze down, willing herself invisible. He cleared his throat. "Before we talk strategy for the second half, there's something I need to address." He paused, and Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This was it. The official dismissal. "Maya Rodriguez," Coach Thompson said, his voice unusually subdued. "I owe you an apology." Maya's head snapped up. Sarah Chen, sitting beside her, squeezed her hand. Maya met Sarah's gaze, a question forming in her mind. My assessment of your performance in the first half was flawed. I made assumptions based on incomplete information. He looked directly at Maya, his expression unreadable. I judged you unfairly. A murmur rippled through the team. No one had ever heard Coach Thompson apologize for anything. I received some additional information during the break. Information that paints a much clearer picture of Cadet Rodriguez's character, her dedication, and her grit. He almost choked on the last word. Maya's heart pounded. What had they shown him? Her deployment applications. The commendations from her ROTC instructors. He continued, Maya, I was wrong. You've demonstrated exceptional commitment to this team, to the academy, and to your responsibilities outside of this court. Your resilience is evident. He gestured awkwardly. Frankly, I'm impressed. Sarah's grip on Maya's hand tightened. Maya could feel the heat radiating from her friend. Coach Thompson took a deep breath. Cadet Rodriguez will be playing in the second half. I expect her to bring the same intensity and dedication she brings to everything else she does. He looked around the room, his gaze sweeping over each cadet. Now, let's talk about how we're going to win this game. The energy in the locker room shifted, a buzz of excitement replacing the earlier tension. Coach launched into a new plan, directing everyone's attention to plays and offensive maneuvers, but Maya barely heard him. She was still trying to process what had just happened. Sarah leaned in, her voice a low murmur. About damn time. You're going to kill it out there, Maya. Show them what you're made of. She grinned, her eyes sparkling. And then you can tell me all about what dirt they dug up in your file later. Maya managed a weak smile. Dirt? No. It was the story of her life, laid bare. But for now, the only thing that mattered was the game. She was back in. And she had a point to prove. She began to stretch, feeling a surge of adrenaline. The squeak of her sneakers on the floor no longer sounded distant. It was the sound of opportunity. Victory's grit. The whistle shrieked, a jarring sound that sliced through the nervous energy clinging to the sidelines. Maya's name echoed from Coach Thompson's gruff voice. Rodriguez, get in there. Center forward. A jolt, not of fear, but of pure, unadulterated determination, surged through her. This wasn't just about proving Thompson wrong. It was about her team, her family, everything she'd worked for. She met Sarah's eyes. Sarah squeezed her hand, a silent, "You got this," radiating from her. Daniel, perched precariously on a metal bench, pumped his fist, his face alight with hope. His earlier dejection, the quiet slump of his shoulders when she was benched, had cut deeper than any criticism. She wouldn't let him down. Stepping onto the field felt like shedding a skin. The weight of doubt, the sting of Thompson's words, all evaporated. She was a soccer player, a cadet, a Rodriguez. Grit was in her blood. The score was tied. Tensions were high. Maya immediately focused, weaving through defenders, her movements precise and powerful. She wasn't just playing, she was conducting, orchestrating a symphony of passes and runs. She saw an opening, signaled to Chen, and the pass arrived like a laser beam. Maya controlled it with her chest, the roar of the crowd a distant hum. A defender lunged. She sidestepped, the ball glued to her foot, and fired. It sailed just wide. Frustration threatened to bubble up, but she crushed it. "Keep the pressure on," she yelled, her voice clear and strong, a beacon in the chaos. Her teammates responded. They moved with renewed vigor, their passes sharper, their tackles fiercer. A shift had occurred. Maya's energy, her unwavering belief, was contagious. The clock ticked down relentlessly. 1 minute left. Then 30 seconds. The score remained knotted. A sense of desperation permeated the air. Another pass, this one intercepted. The opposing team surged forward. A collective groan rose from the crowd. Then, a miracle. A desperate tackle by a defender, the ball squirting loose. Maya was there. She surged forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Two defenders converged, a wall of resistance. But she saw a sliver of space, a whisper of an opportunity. With a burst of speed, she weaved between them, her left foot connecting with the ball in a perfect arc. Time seemed to slow. The ball hurtled toward the goal, a white blur against the green. The goalie dove, a futile attempt. The net bulged. The whistle blew. The stadium erupted. Her teammates swarmed her, a joyous pile of hugs and cheers. "You did it, Maya!" Sarah screamed, her face flushed with excitement. Daniel vaulted over the railing, his small body launching itself into her arms. "You won. You really won." Later, amidst the confetti and the celebratory chants, Coach Thompson approached. He looked different. Humbled. "Rodriguez," he said, his voice lacking its usual gruffness. "That was impressive. You showed me something today. Congratulations, champion." The team hoisted the trophy, the cool metal heavy in their hands. It wasn't just a victory, it was vindication. It was proof that grit wasn't something you found in a file, it was something you forged in the fire. And Maya Rodriguez had emerged, stronger and more radiant than ever before.